Greetings YouTube, LMS Tactical here. Hope you guys are doing really good. I'm just going to go over a few news things and a little bit of LMS philosophy on one of the subjects. First, by now you know that the American prisoners from North Korea are on their way home. You know that's got to be driving liberals insane. How sad is it? I mean, if you happen to be a liberal and you stumbled onto this channel, ask yourself, I mean, how can it feel even semi-justifiable to want Trump to fail at these, you know, these important missions and with his administration in terms of stopping North Korea, their nuclear program, getting the prisoners home, bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula. I mean, if I hated Trump, if I hated his guts, I would be standing up and saluting him for doing this, not trying to somehow claim that it was Obama or that fucking bolt-neck John Kerry. I can't stand John Kerry. I look at John Kerry, man, and it makes me want to freaking commit crime. But that's good news, man. It's too bad that other guy, Otto, I couldn't pronounce his last name, Otto Warmbier, I can't remember, I'm sorry, but it's too bad that he didn't survive his treatment. That is terrible. It must be hard on his parents to see all this stuff happening. But good for those guys, and good on Trump, man, for making this happen. And it's 100% Trump. The Iran deal. I mean, for anybody that's confused about that and thinks that, you hear, I read a lot of comments on a lot of videos, and either liberals are really fucking stupid or they just absolutely believe what they need to believe to justify an argument, which is stupid. But you get a lot of people that, you know, talk about how wrong it is to back out of that deal. That deal was never approved through congressional methods. There was too much debate about it. It was basically a, what do they call that, man, when they do, like an executive order. Executive orders by one president can and are routinely undone by following presidents, whether you like it or not. If it was such a legitimate deal, a couple of things would have happened and one thing wouldn't have happened. Obviously, it would have been presented to Congress, and Congress would have voted on it and voted for it, and then that would have been a legitimate deal. And a thing that wouldn't have happened is a C-130 landing in the dark of night with, you know, how many billions of dollars of cash. You know, let's just face it, man. The Obamas of the world and those that support him, they wanted to bring this country down, and they wanted to bring it to a level that they wanted it to exist as. Nothing like what the Constitution says. Or you wouldn't be bringing cash to a country that routinely burns American flags and shouts death to America and death to Israel. Fuck them. Now, when there's been a lot of activity based on Trump's statement that if they, because Iran is, of course, it's funny, they're like, well, we're gonna restart our nuclear project 10 times faster now. We're gonna go full speed. Well, wait a minute, I thought you guys didn't have a nuclear program. So there's that. But, you know, Trump says, hey, look, if they do that, you know, they're going to regret it. And people are like, oh my God, what does that mean? I can tell you exactly what it fucking means. It's a no-brainer. I'm a GED guy, and I'll tell you what it means. Because I understand how Trump thinks, and anybody with a brain can see how he thinks. When he says shit, he means it. That's why I love him. If Iran starts increasing or continuing their production of nuclear weapons, you're going to see targeted strikes on these facilities. Probably a joint operation with Israel, unless it's led, you know, might be fully done by Israel. They have the capability to do it. They've done shit like that before. They're right next door, more or less, a lot closer than we are. But I anticipate targeted strikes on these nuclear facilities in a joint operation with Israel and the United States. That's what I'd do. I think that's what Trump's going to do. And I think the Iranians are going to learn the fucking lesson the hard way. Oh, you're a warmonger. I'm not a warmonger. And that brings me to my next subject. So, I watch a lot of historic videos. I just, and they're not all on war, but a lot of them are, because I'm somewhat fascinated by it. Just, I lived, obviously, my grandfather, on my mom's side, he was on the USS West Virginia when it sunk in Pearl Harbor, and when it was refloated and went on to fight in all the major battles, Leyte Gulf, the whole bit. So I got to talk to him, and for those of you that don't know, I'm a Mason. I'm a Knights Templar in the Masons. And when I was in LA, we used to have dinners every month, and I would have the absolute honor of sitting at tables with pilots and door gunners and tail gunners from B-17s and B-29s. Just beautiful people, man, that were of such a different era that as I watch our society decline with this poisonous liberal shit, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, sexless bathrooms, everybody does what they want, we're all winners, nobody's a loser. I find myself hearkening back to the World War II era and understanding more and more why they are referred to as the greatest generation. They spoke differently, they thought differently, they had a real... I think that I wish I lived in those days, I mean, they had their hardships and they had their issues, but man, it was just a better country, I think, politically for sure. Anyways, so I'll find myself watching, like, I love airplanes. I've flown a little bit, actually piloted, and I love watching, like, the old gun camera footage. It's silent. Some of the B-17 bomber footage, all of that stuff. So I was watching that today, and one of them is like the best gun camera footage of World War II, and it's pretty intense, and people are dying. And in one of the video, or one of the scenes, the gun camera caught a German bailing out of his burning plane, and the chute opened, and the plane, whether intentional or not, literally just went right through the parachute. His wing hit the parachute, probably killed the guy. But that launched a barrage of comments, and it's maybe where the fuck am I? Maybe I'm completely wrong here, and I always give myself freedom to change my mind. But I don't think so, man. I mean, the thing that came up was the Geneva Convention, and people were motherfucking each other because you don't shoot once a pilot's out of the airplane, he's no threat, you let him go down, and blah blah blah. And then the counter arguments were, yeah, so we can get another airplane and come back and kill you later. Get a phone call here, and yeah, hopefully that didn't cut me off. Did that cut me off? Okay, it's getting a phone call, but oh shit, school zone. So all this, hey man, Americans are assholes. Look at that, they killed this parachute guy. Let me just tell you something about, this is LMS Tactical's philosophy on war. And I want to preface it with this. I am probably the closest thing to a Buddhist monk than anyone in terms of how my heart longs for peace and nonviolence. And that's just the truth. I literally have something called a bugzooka, and it sucks spiders and shit up in my house if I see them, so I don't hurt them, and I let them out in the yard. I don't like killing things. I don't hunt animals. I'm not against people that do. I just don't do it. I'm all about human rights, and I don't derive any pleasure whatsoever out of seeing somebody get killed. That being said, this is the yin and yang of LMS Tactical, and I'm wondering how you guys feel about this. I wonder if there's anybody else out there like me. So, I am a firm believer. Now, if we lived in my world, in other words, if I was the king, when it comes to war, I would make sure that our country never, ever went to war unless absolutely mandatory for survival. I wouldn't invade people. I wouldn't go after natural resources. There would be no reasons to go to war that would fly in terms of justification with me. That being said, if we were attacked, if we had no other choice but to go into combat with a country, it would be with such brutality. And here's where it's going to get weird. And, maybe it's just I'm on my period or something, but it would be carnage beyond belief. And my philosophy is real simple, and I'm sure it's not an original thought. There are reasons to do war brutally. When we were kids, if you got in a fight, you beat the shit out of the guy that was bullying you, and you didn't just beat him to stop the fight. You beat him good because you basically did two things. You taught him a lesson, and you taught all the other bullies that were watching a lesson that maybe that ain't the right guy to be fucking with. They're the same philosophy. The schoolyard comparison is perfect for wars, in my opinion, because a lot of times they're that stupid. Some of the reasons we go to war are about as dumb as some of the shit we fought about as kids. But Vietnam, I could give you endless examples of bullshit. Vietnam is a good one. My wife is Vietnamese. She was 12 years old when Saigon fell. She's seen combat right there in her front yard, so watch people die. So, her and I agree on this 100%. The fuck? I hear sirens, but I don't see anything. Anyways, the rules were, I think that was probably the beginning of the really fucked up rules of warfare. You can kill everybody on this side of the road, but don't kill anyone on that side of the road. If the enemy comes over here and slaughters 12 of your people but crosses that creek, you can't go over there and fight those guys because, you can't cross that boundary. If you kill a cow or a water buffalo, you got to pay the family $5 billion, whatever. That's not how you fight a war. And we wonder why we technically lost that war. And I say technically because it doesn't go down easy that we lost knowing that we won every battle that we ever fought there and that we just simply stopped fighting it. And we should never have been in that fucking war to begin with, like many of the wars that we've been in. But I was watching videos about the bombings of Dresden, Germany. Now, how many civilians died in that horrific event? I don't know. It's hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children to just burn to death in a nightmare that was brought on by incendiary bombs dropped by us, and the Allies. So how do you feel about that, Mike? Oh, I think it's fucking sad. I'm pulling into Home Depot. But I don't really concern myself with it as much as you might think, because here's the deal. When you go into a war that theoretically you were forced into under my doctrine, and you try to be the nice guy, you set yourself up for a loss. You set yourself up for a loss. And there's all kinds of arguments, and some of them are valid. Well, if you treat prisoners bad, then when they catch your prisoners, I get all that. But if you want a war to be over and done with really quick, you go in and you kill every motherfucking thing that even looks like it might have moved once. You just slaughter it. And you go in there with relentless, heartless massacring of the enemy and its people. Because remember, under my doctrine, you got pulled into it because they attacked you and your people. And I'm going to tell you something. There is a sadness in my heart for people that were born under the wrong flag. I get it. And look, in Mike's world, in my perfect world, there would be no war. We don't live in that world. War appears to be a natural human condition, unfortunately, because we've been fighting since we came out of the freaking first cave or wherever the hell we came from. So there's nowhere to park. What the fuck's going on at Home Depot? So let me just fucking wrap this up. I'm sorry. All right, I'm gonna move in over here. Oh, sorry. I just cut a guy off. I'm gonna get my ass kicked now. It's a fucking Chinese humpback dwarf with a baseball bat. Okay, sorry about that delay. Yeah, so really, I don't want to fucking kill women and children, but I would rather the people under the flag of the ones that are trying to destroy our people, I'd rather they lose their people than us lose our people. This is the complexity of being a free thinker that doesn't lock himself into, and I'm not saying I'm a great guy, I'm just explaining myself, that I don't lock myself into one dogma or another, because it's not black and white. It really isn't black and white. I mean, because we could go on and on. Imagine there's no countries. You know, John Lennon. A lot of people hate that song. What a great world that would be. Hey, look, man, I think it'd be awesome if we were just earthlings on one planet and there were no borders. But as long as there are cultures, as long as there's different shades of pigment, we're gonna have borders, man. Because that's just the fucked up part of being a human. You know, people coalesce together, and if it ain't their fucking skin's better than your skin, it's their God is better than your God, and we got the only right God. And as long as there's one religion that thinks that its mission is to dominate the earth, then we better have some weapons around and the wherewithal to use them. That's just unfortunate, you know? Taking a human life should be the very last thing you do. But I'm a guy that thought dropping the bombs on Japan was the absolute right thing to do. Now, like I said, there's no black and white. I don't know what was going on other than what I read, and then I try to figure out and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it's possible, and believe me, the more I see our government, how they operate, the more I realize that this is probably probable, that it was an unnecessary thing and they rushed to do it because Japan was getting ready to fall anyways, and they just wanted to test these new toys out. That may be true, and if that's the case, shame on those guys for making those decisions. But if the scenario that we hear was that Japan was never going to surrender and we were going to have to do a land invasion and we would have lost all these men and blah blah blah, and the civilians and everything else anyways, fuck it, blow up a couple cities and see if that don't bring them to their knees. And it did bring them to their knees. Okay, so I got no problem with that. Well, how come America wants to fucking dictate now who has nuclear bombs and who doesn't, and they're the ones that fucking dropped it? We're the only ones that used it more. That's just the benefit of fucking having the shit first. It's real simple stuff. Don't overcomplicate this shit. If I invent a fucking nuclear bomb and you don't have one and you make me use it, I don't want you to get one later. They're fucking hard to understand about that. So, I don't know, man. Iran, I don't think any country should have nuclear weapons, but they already exist, so you can't make them magically disappear. So the best we can do as a people, and I know I'm drifting all over the place, is to do our best to ensure that people that are fucking burning flags and swearing death to entire countries don't get them. And that people that are driven by a religious belief that they need to fucking bring on the end of the world or wipe out all the non-belief, you don't want those guys having them either. I mean, this is basic fucking 10th grade shit. 10th grade, fucking 5th grade. So, I don't know, man. What do you guys think? Am I like totally a heartless dude? I hope I don't come across that way, because I'm not that way. When I saw the guy get hit with the parachute, look, man, I've seen a lot of people die, and my mind is so detailed that it fucking destroys me. Because I'll look at a dead guy, and instead of being a cop that just hangs the yellow tape and waits for detectives, I start thinking, man, when he put on those shoes and tied him, he had no idea he was going to get his head blown off today, and blah 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 blah. And I think too much. So I was thinking about this guy in the plane, and I saw him in his little dogfight, and then he must have felt happy to have gotten out of the plane, only to be fucking hit by the wing of the plane that shot his plane down. But that's the way it goes. How many Americans did that guy kill? How many Americans did he kill? And by the way, the Germans were unloading on the fucking paratroopers that were invading during Normandy, the Normandy invasion. I'm talking shooting guys down in the air. The Geneva Convention, it's a good idea, but sometimes I get tired of being the fucking guy taking the moral high ground, because when you take the moral high ground and you're fighting somebody with no morals, it's good to talk about to the people that weren't there. It's good for them to talk about it. Well, We did our best to prevent collateral damage. Well, how many guys did you lose by doing that? If you want to get frustrated, go watch some of these fucking Apache helicopter gun camera videos in Iraq and Afghanistan. These guys are watching fucking dudes digging IEDs or carrying weapons. And they got to go through a fucking 15-minute aerial fucking trial back to headquarters. Yeah, they got weapons. Okay, stand by. Fucking 10 minutes later. Okay, are you sure they have weapons? Roger that, they got weapons, and they're done planting the bomb now. They're starting to walk away. Okay, stand by. What kind of weapons they got? You know, the kind that shoot bullets. Okay, stand by. Yeah, they're getting further away. Fucking 20 minutes later. Okay, are you 100% sure they're weapons? Roger, they're getting ready to enter a village. Okay. All right, so how close is the nearest house? Well, it's right next to them because they've been walking for 5 miles. Okay, yeah, you cannot engage them. The commander says you might break a window or something. That shit just drives me fucking nuts, man. If you're the fucking pilot of a fucking helicopter or the gunner or a fucking soul and you see something that you know, I mean, we don't know what a fucking threat is, you light it the fuck up. That's if I was leading, you know, if I was in charge of the country. So anyways, that's me, man. That's my little rant for the day. Hope you guys are doing good. If you haven't watched the tactical, what the fuck did I call it? Tactical breakfast. You know, I really like that video because I think based on the comments that you guys realized how fun it was. It really was fun. I mean, I'm looking forward to cooking on that thing again. I mean, I've been like checking out like how to do the, you know, the onion volcanoes and shit that you see at the Japanese restaurants and shit. I mean, I love it. I love that fucking, that griddle. Anyways, that's it. I got to run into Home Depot. And in the meantime, you guys stay safe. And I hope you got something out of this video. LMS Tactical, I'm out.